everyone, welcome to Movement and Me, an initiative that is designed for budding artists across the world who wish to pursue their career in art. I'm your host Niharika, and on this show you will hear artists talk about their lives and the choices they had to make in pursuit of arts. We will also get to use some tips and key learnings from the lives of these artists, along with a detailed discussion on their areas of interest. So quickly hop onto a journey into the world of arts along with us. Today's guest is Mr. Vishal Telang. Vishal is a movement cum dance maker, a dance educator, dance theorist, bon vivant, writer, poet, and a lot more. He has been in a relationship with dance for more than 20 years. With a strong background in contemporary and modern dance, Vishal has been performing in India, Europe, and the United States. He uses ballet and Graham techniques as his anchor points. As a movement cum dance educator, he also emphasizes on teaching dance history, dance theory, anatomy, and injury prevention. His belief that movement cum dance practice must be exciting and adventurous while being mindful and safe has led him to develop Flosion, a body conditioning program. He is currently working on V8, a movement formula that can be used in Western contemporary and movement and dance. This formula is designed as an approach to enhance the Western contemporary movement and dance by combining thoughts, experiences, and the five senses in our body. This formula has been designed by combining the Indian Rasa Bhava theory from Natya Shastra and the Western cognitive understanding of the body and mind. Hi Vishal, thank you so much for joining us here. It's great to have you on our podcast.
Hey Niharika, thank you so much for inviting me and just hearing me out. I think there are very less people these days who wants to listen to other people. So thank you for calling me and hearing me out. Hopefully.
I am always yours to listen to more people because I think that is also an experience that you can gain and learn from. Which brings me, by the way, to my first question. And this is a question I'm very curious to know the answer to because I think even when I was introducing you or even, going through the introduction, I was very odd. You wear so many hats and there's so much that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about what drove you to even, do a little bit of what it is that you're doing and how has it helped you overall?
I think the kind of world that we are living in right now and the kind of lifestyle that we all are living, I think it's very essential for a person or a human being to have and wear different hats in general, because you never know what helps you where and how, in general. And the other hats that I'm wearing came from me wanting to understand dance better, because my teacher always told me, my teacher Yashad sir, Yashad Jadhav, he is one of my mentors, father figures, and amazing human being. He said that if you want to pursue anything to do with art, then it should not only be that particular thing, because then it becomes very limited and mediocre. So to enhance that particular art, whatever it is, music, dance, paint, acting, you have to wear other hats, understand different cultures, understand different languages, understand different people, to bring all of that experience into what you're doing as an art form. And which is what led me to just experience different things. And I don't deliberately get into something like, say for instance, oh, I'm an artist now, so I want to go and do something deliberately. No, it doesn't happen. But all these things that I've mentioned about myself happened very organically through life, like for instance, I never knew how to cook. I come from a privileged background where my mom cooks, we have cooks at home, my grandmother cooks, so all we had to do is sit out in the dining table and wait for the food, and hot food was served, and then that's how I grew up. But when I went to New York, I couldn't enjoy those privileges because everything should be done by me and myself and I. And for that instance, I had to learn how to cook, and I had to also do work on the side. So I used to work on the side in a restaurant as a food runner, as a sous chef in Manhattan. So that led me how to just survive. I think all these things in general I learned was because of survival instincts and modes, and that automatically enhanced my dancing in general. I think so. So I think it's very essential, like just cooking, knowing how to cook
Mm-hmm.
is very essential. Like look at right now, you
I
cannot
agree.
have maids at home, you cannot have anybody. So I feel so happy that I learned cooking much before, and I call myself a chef because I cook really good food. So I am self-sufficient.
Uh,
So I think that's how it works.
yeah, I think I am, of course, very jealous that you are able to eat great food because you cook it and you're a great cook, which I can't say about myself. But
It's okay.
what I've learned and understood is from the response that you've given, and I think I really admire it as well to a certain degree because uh, we fail to see the benefits of tapping into other areas. Sometimes it just is I think it's underplayed quite a lot. If you're a
Yeah.
dancer, you're expected to stay in the dance space, dance industry, and not tap into other areas, and also learn from the experience. And I think your response just sort of affirms what I have really understood about movement and how dance works over the years. So thank you
Or
so
any
much
art form
for
in general. Or in any art form in general.
I'm 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 gonna leave the, I would say, gurus to say that I have no I am not the right person to respond to this one, but I think you're absolutely right. It may be true for all the other areas of study as well. This brings me to my next question, which is again on similar lines. Um, because you've been also dancing for like 20 years, with of course other experiences also helping you with time and learn. What is your biggest takeaway so far? What is it that about the, about your journey that you really carried with you over the years?
Biggest takeaway. I still am trying to figure out the question in general as to what is the biggest takeaway. I think the biggest takeaway is that I think I've started learning how to take things more lightly.
Mm.
You know, I think I used to be very serious and very, in a way, pushy and very, in a way, you know, I think, what do I say? Very rigid,
Okay,
you know,
fair enough.
in sense, as a human being, very rigid, very, very structured and very like in a box kind of a thing. And I feel that the biggest takeaway with this was because I was dancing, because I felt how dance was and how it made my body feel, it
Mm.
made me much lighter
That's
with what I am. I think that's the biggest takeaway I would suggest. I think so. I don't know if that made really sense, but I think that is the biggest takeaway that I think I got out of dance in general. That it started made me feel light. I take things lightly now. It's easier for me to move on in general,
mm.
like with life in general. I think so. Yeah, that's the easiest place, and I think that also has allowed me to be happy in general. Like I think dance has taught me how to be light, let go, keep it flowing, and it keeps me happy. I think I use the same rule in my life as well, and my way of living, and I think it just works.
I think that's one of the
I don't know
best
if that made sense, by
perspectives.
the way.
It did, it did. Of course, some things only make sense in our head sometimes, but trust me, this one made sense outside of your head as well. But I think this is an important lesson for us during this pandemic also, because we've all had different kinds of experiences happen to us over the years. Especially in the last 2 years, we've been a lot of new experiences have been unfolding, new situations and environments have been unfolding in front of us. And I like the way that you put it through words, like the word light being associated with, you know, your lifestyle and your body, because when you were responding, I could see the lightness appear in your body as well, like when you were responding to the answer. So I think that is a very important lesson to be learned, but also keep your eyes on the screen to see how Vishal is actually behaving while responding, because that's also a very interesting way to receive the response from others as well. Uh, I have a question based on what you've just said, but I'm going to reserve that for the second part of our interview because it's prevalent for today. And I think that people would want to know, to have this conversation and get to know a little bit about it. And it would be great to have it right before we finish the interview. So I'm going to reserve the question number until then. But for now, I'm going to move on to the question, which I think is the most interesting one for me as an artist, as a dancer. So you have excelled in various techniques such as Graham, Horton, and Cunningham technique, right? But
No, I haven't excelled. I haven't excelled as yet. I still have to excel.
Okay, so you have been learning. I'm going to rephrase the
Yes.
question. So you've been learning Graham, Horton, and Cunningham technique. For someone who's been in the industry, who knows who Cunningham is, what Graham technique is all about, and what Horton technique is, it's still easy to, you know, make the separation and understand the differences. But for someone who doesn't know what these three are, is there a way to sort of describe it, maybe through words, a little bit of demonstration as to what it is that these three techniques are and how do they differ from each other?
Absolutely. Again, I don't like the word industry. Again, I feel that again, making a art form look like an industry makes it look like a factory. You know, so for me, I don't usually like the word industry, because the moment it becomes industry, like it's like becoming bhed chal. Chalo, 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 sab log chalo, chalo, chalo. The sheep are all running in one line, you know. So I feel that the word industry in itself should be situated or be related to something which is what do you call that? Like what industries are, like what cement factories and manufacturing and all those things. So I don't think art form is manufacturing, but it's become any which ways. It's become very capitalistic any which way. So I cannot run away from it, but I still try to refrain how much ever I can with whatever I can. Anyways, coming to your question, I am still learning. I am still involved with Graham technique, Horton, Cunningham in general. And so how do I differentiate and how do I explain this is very, it's very vast. But if I really want to condense it in a way, I would say that Graham technique was formulated by Martha Graham. Horton was by Lester Horton, and Merce Cunningham founded Cunningham technique, right? So basically these techniques were very philosophical in itself. So all these techniques came in the period of modern and postmodern. And the modern era was somewhere between 1890s to the 1950, 1960s. And from the 1960s to 1990 was about, no, not even 1990, 1980s, something was postmodern. And in this period, a lot of artists wanted to express their own individual self, wanted to say something of their own. Like, for instance, if I talk about Martha Graham, when she was studying in the 1910 with St. Ruth Dennis and the Denison Theatre, she was not okay with the fact that ballet was so rigid and disciplined, you know, and she just wanted to break the whole understanding of ballet and make it her own language. And she managed to do that by breaking the spine, because in ballet everything is straight, right? So the only thing what she could do is break the spine. And so she came up with the concept called as contraction, and then she also came up with the concept of release, and then she came up with the concept of spirals. So how do you spiral the spine? So the only thing what she could break in that whole understanding of ballet was to break the spine, because in ballet we are taught to keep the spine straight. We cannot move the spine in opposite directions or whatever that is. And she used that against policy to her own idea, and that became a technique. So she developed her entire technique around the contraction, release, and spirals. So same thing goes with Lester Horton. Same goes with Merce Cunningham. They all found their own understanding of movement in general and what they want to say personally, and through that they came up with their own understanding and style of movement in general. And then that movement became technique because it gave different shapes, different identities, and different ways of expressing through the body in general. And I think that's what it is. And then if I go in depth with the whole understanding of the styles, then it's going to get really boring. But it's also exciting for me in general, because these techniques are the foundation for contemporary dance. And unfortunately, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but a lot of contemporary dancers today, especially in India, they are obsessed with just a couple of, or 3 or 4 things that they do, like flying low, or they go to Europe and learn some improvisation, some contact improvisation, and that's about it. And then they understand that they have understood contemporary dance in general. But the roots of contemporary dance was the modern dance. And if you have not understood modern dance and you're trying to say that you know contemporary dance, then I think it's a little unfair. And if any contemporary dancer is reading this or watching this or whatever, please, I think that is the whole understanding, and which is why I feel I was so lucky to go and study that and come, and it's very essential for a contemporary dancer to understand what modern dancing it is. It is very boring. It is going to make you feel like, oh God, what is this? It's like mathematics. But that is the whole understanding. It's the mathematics of the body, and it is your body. I understand that you don't want to learn 2 + 2 = 4, but listen, how do you make 2 + 2 into 4 with your body is interesting enough, I think so, because it's your body. How do you create 4 with your body, and how many different ways do you create 4? Not just in one way. Like, if I'm doing flying low, my body's only going to create 4 in just one way, but if I understand different techniques and different ideologies, different philosophies of different choreographers, technique makers, then I think my body will be able to say the letter 4 in about 1,000 variations or 2,000 variations. I don't know,
I think something very interesting you pointed out, and I think we keep missing this point as well. Quite often, we don't really understand what the word contemporary dance or Western contemporary dance really means. Like, what is where does it come from? What is the background? And I think the history lesson, like you just talked about, is as important as learning the art form itself. Because if you don't know where it started from, you can't take it to where you want it to go.
And why it started. What was the reason? That's the most important thing. Asking a question as to why is the most important thing.
So everybody who's watching the podcast, please feel free to reach out to Vishal. I will be putting his Instagram handle in the description box. Reach out. Do you take the modern dance classes?
I don't take, I teach.
Sorry. He teaches modern dance. So in case you're interested, please feel free to reach out. His Instagram link is in the description box below for you all to explore. He also does a lot more work. He's also, started his own podcast series. He interviews artists. He's collaborating with these artists. So please go check it out. See what you can learn from all of the things that Vishal is putting up on his Instagram page. On that note, Vishal, we move on to the next question. Now, this is a question that I think is very relevant to today, and I think has been relevant for a while now, but people have not really grasped the possibilities that can get opened up when you kind of start opening up yourself to various kind of experiences. So what happens when a dancer or an artist, you've answered some part of it in the previous question as well. What happens when an artist opens himself up to various dance styles? What happens when they open themselves up to various techniques that are already available out there? And what are the benefits of such exposure? What happens when you expose yourselves why should you expose yourselves, and what can you do with whatever it is that you've learned?
So I feel that every different dance form is a language
Mm-hmm.
in its own,
Uh-huh.
and every language has its own way of articulating through your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
How do you articulate those certain words? And Arabic would sound completely different than a French. A French would completely sound different to an English.
Right.
It's all coming from that one mouth and the tongue. But how do you articulate it?
Right.
What part of the muscle of the tongue are you using? Uh, that makes a lot of difference. And to use that part of the tongue or the muscle of that tongue or whatever that is, you need to practice it. You need to keep practicing it. Now, why am I using the word tongue to describe dance and all these other things? Is because I feel that if I am just doing one form of dance or one technique of dance, then there is only one set of muscles in your body that has developed. And those muscles take only that one shape. And I feel that is a very rigid way of understanding movement in general. And movement is very elaborate, languages are very elaborate, very, very different. So to keep all the muscles working, I feel that there is a necessity for a dancer to understand different techniques or styles or whatever that is because there are different parts of muscles that are working in different techniques.
Right.
Like what benefit I would get in Graham technique, I would not be getting the same thing in Horton, but I might work different muscles in Horton. And while I'm doing Horton, doesn't mean that if I do Cunningham, I will be working the same muscles. No, I'll be working different muscles. The same thing with belly dance. If I'm doing belly dance, I'm using a different part of the muscle to move the body. So to understand all these things is very interesting, and to have as a dancer to have all these different styles in the body and qualities in the body, it's like Arjuna's armor, like the arrows that you have, and you just are then invincible. Like you feel like, whoa, I can do anything with my body. Like I can like fly, I can float, I can control. The ultimate understanding of life is that, right? How can you have that control over your mind and your body? And the moment you have that control over your body, it becomes easy. So it's very essential for a dancer to go to that extent, to learn all these techniques in a way, just to have that control in the body and do anything possible. I think that's how it would help, I feel. And what was the second part of the question that you asked?
What are the benefits of doing this? Of course, you've answered some part of it already.
Yeah.
What are the benefits?
The benefits, again, as I said, it's just to understand the body better. Different parts of the body, muscles working differently, gives you a different feeling altogether. Philosophies are different.
Absolutely.
The understanding behind the dance form doesn't just include body, but it includes a huge culture, a background, a set of people, the way they eat, the way they drink, the way they breathe the air. So there's a lot of things that it encompasses in general to understand. So, to get into the depth of that, then I think you need to go to a completely different area. But I don't know if dancers really want to do that these days. I'm not sure about it.
That's the thought that hit my head when you were answering. I was like, too much detailed, I would say, introspection and history, I would say discussion. But then I'm not sure people today are actually going that in depth to understand and study a dance form, to explore it through and through, to learn what it is that it offers. And I think you pointed out something very useful here: cultural influence on dance, and the influence of culture on dance, and the influence of dance on culture. Both of them are equally important and need to be studied to understand why the dance form even started, or was created, or was formed, or curated, or was found, whatever term can be used here at this point. But I think that is a very important lesson to be learned. Even when you were answering the question, you said it yourself that, there is a purpose behind Graham looking for that technique. Why did she want to contract? What was the reason behind focusing on the spine? Similarly goes for Cunningham. What was it about movement that Cunningham said, you know what, there has to be something different in the way that I approach this particular style of dancing? What is it that
Absolutely.
you're looking for? Um, yeah.
You know, a very funny thing, Picasso,
Mm-hmm.
Picasso didn't become a great painter overnight.
Of course.
You know,
Hmm.
he went to school, he studied different kinds of paintings, he learned how to do different kinds of paintings,
Mm-hmm.
and he was so into painting and did all kinds of painting that he found out his own way of painting later on in life. And after finding his own way of painting, eventually he said that, you know what, I don't want to paint like this. This is so boring. Then they asked him a question, what do you want to paint like then? Then he said that I really want to paint like a newborn baby or a child. If you just give a pen or a paintbrush in the baby's hand, how will the baby brush or paint in general? So I would want to paint like that. So if that understanding needs to come, it doesn't come overnight. Like today, somebody after listening to this and say, oh, I want to paint like a baby, and you start painting like a baby. It doesn't work like that. You have to go through the process to come to that situation where then you have that thought, and the thought becomes the actuality in general. And then I think that's what it is. Today, the problem is that the thought comes, and then immediately they want to implement it without having prior knowledge or prior understanding to anything, I feel.
This kind of leads me to my question, which I think is also relevant, but it's a concern that I think dancers are having today, particularly with social media, right? You've mentioned it, so I want to ask you this question, and I think it's very relevant at this point as well. So, when you say that you need prior knowledge, when you say you need to have a certain amount of experience and, I would say practice and process based learning in this entire field, before you actually creating content which is going to do justice to yourself, to your own skill, but also do justice to the work that people have put up over the years. With social media, however, we are currently experiencing a boom in people creating content every hour of every day, or sometimes even every few minutes for that matter. There's so many dancers out there. There's so much of dancing that is available out there. But many times we've noticed that a lot of the dancing that happens on social media is not something that has been well thought out or well rehearsed or well researched, or has had enough amount of hard work put in. So personally, even I have been through the process myself, and I have struggled to keep up with the needs of social media as an outlet. So what is it that you would like to tell people who are trying to find a way to establish themselves in social media platforms, but are artists at the same time, and they are quite young, who can have a lot more experience and exposure at this point? What would you like to say to them?
Well, about social media, I think, again, I don't think that there is anything wrong with what's happening on social media. It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. I classify dance in general as to, are you dancing for hobby? Are you dancing for likes? Are you really pursuing professional dance? And what is the area that you're pursuing, and how are you pursuing? Are you interested in concert dance? Are you interested in stage dance? Are you interested in commercial dance? Are you interested in dancing behind Beyonce? Are you interested in dancing for Instagram? Now, everything has its own, I think, levels of understanding in general. I could never become an Instagram star. I could never become a YouTube star because I don't have that sensibility, and I know that the Instagram influencers could never reach up to my level because they don't have my kind of sensibility in general. They cannot create the way I create, and I cannot create the way they create in general. So what they're doing is absolutely fine. I believe, I always tell this to my students, always speak your truth. What is your truth? It's not necessary that you always have to research and reason and always have to have some kind of a cognitive understanding ki nahi, ye logical understanding ki ye aisa hi hona chahiye. No, it doesn't have to sometimes, it's everybody's truth is different, and it's absolutely okay with it. If your truth is to go on Instagram and garner likes and do the same thing over and over again, good for you. If it works, great, But if it's not your truth, then don't do it. Don't be there. Then find a space where you can actually speak your truth in general, and speak your truth as in speak your truth with the body and the understanding, because every truth has its own understanding, and every truth has a different understanding from different people in general. So I feel, if you're not meant to be on social media, don't be on social media. Don't force yourself. And if you really feel that it's your social media, then go for it. I also believe that it's also the point of patience and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you do, whether or whether you're teaching, whether you're on stage, today's generation gives up very easily. Everything is instant gratification, instant mega Maggie, 2-minute Maggie noodle, button press karo to coffee, aa jata hai. That's kind of that is a kind of lifestyle. So they are looking for immediate response from everything. But I think even if it's YouTube or social media, even if you're doing what you're doing as a hobby, it will take time in general. Like, just because it's a hobby and you have a house and you have a 4K resolution camera in your house, and then you're just dancing with whatever popular music, it doesn't mean that it will go viral overnight. It takes time. Sometimes it becomes easy, sometimes it doesn't become easy. But I think, again, the most important thing I would take out of this is speak your truth, whether it's on social media or whether it's stage, film, research and development, education. I don't know.
That's a very powerful message, and I wanted to personally ask you this question too, because there's a lot of I would say sort of a fight going on, for the lack of a better way
Yeah.
to put it, between artists who are actually investing a lot of time and energy into learning and honing their skills, versus people who are just putting up content, like you said, for likes and comments and shares. But I think it's important to understand that each one has its own value and purpose, and what it could.
This sorry to cut you, but this is the hypocrisy I don't like. This is the hypocrisy I don't like in general with artists. Artists are the one who comes and tells everybody that, listen, speak, have an opinion. There should be freedom of opinion. There should be a freedom of speech. There should be everything of freedom. And then the moment somebody is doing something, they're like, oh, no, this is not right. This is not right. Arey, maybe that's his truth, or that's her truth. So this is the hypocrisy I don't like with the whole fight that is happening. कि नहीं, मैं तुमसे बड़ा हूं, तुम मेरे से छोटे हो. नहीं यार, सब एक दूसरे के साथ है, किसी का सच अलग है. It's like wearing clothes. I like to wear normal sandals and walk around. Some person might not feel comfortable with this. Some person might want to have a jacket. Doesn't mean that that person is wrong or I am right or whatever that is. It is just individual choice that everybody makes. Same thing with how they want to project their dance in a way. It's their individual approach, and I think we should respect that, because if we don't respect that, then how do you expect people to respect your work in general?
I think that's a very powerful message, powerful statement to make as well. Something as that acts as a reminder for everybody, that you have to, when you say that you want to be open and you want to receive, and that everybody should have the right to say what it is that they want to, you have to accept that there are going to be certain things that you might not feel comfortable with, and that's going to come along the way. So thank you so much for that powerful message.
Yeah, I mean, again, as I said, you can disagree, you can dislike it, it's absolutely fine. But then don't retaliate and fight and make it look like what you're doing is right and what others are doing is wrong. That's not the eventual.
The undermining should not happen. This kind of brings me to my next question. Again, all of this discussion is happening around the idea of what happens when you expose yourself, or you learn different techniques, or you go and experience all of this. This brings me to the next question, which is about the idea of doing courses, diploma or otherwise. Like, there are master's, bachelor courses as well. There are diploma courses available. There are certificate programs in dance as well. Now, a lot of artists in India don't necessarily know.
Where are you talking about diploma courses and everything in India?
Both in India and outside. Both in India.
Okay.
So there are diploma courses in India, certificate programs in India. There are a handful of
Western dancing.
I I wouldn't specifically call that Western, but there are courses available. Like, because I've
Okay.
not explored them, so I don't really know what Western contemporary dance they offer.
Okay.
So I don't want to say it out here just in case
That's absolutely
what they're
no.
offering is not probably what is supposed to be called Western dance. But
It's okay.
there are companies like Atakalari, a Center of Movement Arts, right, in Bangalore, which offers
Mhm.
certain courses.
Sure.
Similarly,
I taught at Atakalari as well.
yes. So there's this Tata Institute of Social Sciences, which offers, I think, performance studies as a bachelor's program. So what I'm kind of asking as a question is that what is the purpose and what value do you think such certificate, diploma, or bachelor's and master's program add? Because I don't think artists across the country currently know a lot about these certificate programs or these kind of bachelor's and master's degrees that are available, and what kind of values they might add. So, what is your thought on that?
This is my opinion. This is my thought. Okay. Unfortunately or fortunately, in India, I'm talking only in India. Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm a very honest person. So I mean, if you feel that what my answer is something that is disturbing or something that is not appropriate, then you can cut it. You can edit it. It's absolutely fine. But I feel that a lot of these people like Atakalari, or there's a lot of other names that I will, because you mentioned Atakalari, I'm giving you Atakalari's name, is because everybody here in India is focusing on the higher education.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is concentrating on the primary and the secondary education, because that is the foundation that is required as to go to the higher education.
Okay.
People are already giving diplomas without having a kindergarten for dance in general. And our understanding of kindergarten in dance is Bollywood dancing. Watch YouTube, watch Hrithik Roshan, watch Shah Rukh Khan, watch Salman Khan dancing on the towel, which is also great, which is amazing. But my understanding is that if you want to pursue dance as an education, then you need to have a certain amount of primary and secondary education that is required. If you want to become a cardiologist, you cannot go there and become a cardiologist all of a sudden. You have to go through first standard, second standard, third standard, go to college, get an MBBS degree, and then you do a specialization, then you do a PhD, then you do a specialization in cardiology. So there's a lot of process that goes through. So in India, I feel that that is the understanding, like कि मतलब higher education, एक बड़ा सा मकान बना लिया, एक बड़ा सा एक structure बना लिया, and say, wow, I'm selling dance now, I'm giving dance education. But that is the ultimate, but that is the problem here. But in the West, they have incredible amount of higher education. They have PhD level understanding of dance in general, and research, of course. But they also have that equivalent primary and secondary education that is very, very essential, because that is the foundation. If you don't know how to walk, how will you run? So here, what they're doing, I feel, in the name of giving you dance education, they're asking you to run the marathon, run the marathon. अरे यार, उसको 100 meter race नहीं दौड़ना आ रहा है, तुम उसको marathon दौड़ा रहे हो. So that is the whole understanding. I think the higher education system in general in India is a little, damadole. And this is why what is happening. And I feel that dancers and these kind of institution needs to be more responsible and bring in that understanding of primary and secondary education and give them that layers to education in general, to dance.
My question then is, what do you mean by primary and secondary?
Primary and secondary is just to understand these little techniques like modern dancing and get into the details of it. हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है कि 3 महीने का कोर्स होता है, 3 महीने में खत्म, 4 महीने में खत्म, 6 महीने में तुमको सर्टिफिकेट मिल जाता है डांस का और तुम डांसर बन गए. But if you really want into gram technique and understand gram technique, it will take you a lifetime, my dear friend. If you want to really get into contemporary dancing, it will take you a lifetime to get into it. If you're doing it for hobby purpose and just to collect certificates and put it on your wall, then it's absolutely fine. But that piece of paper doesn't mean anything, trust me. In the real world, I believe, it's my opinion, that no piece of paper will guarantee you work. Because as an artist, what is that you show that truth that you speak is going to be seen. The piece of paper doesn't matter. So no matter what education you have, it doesn't really matter if you don't dance really well. When you go to audition in the abroad, they don't ask you कि अरे यार तुमने कहाँ से कोर्स किया, रैम्बर्ट स्कूल से किया है या फिर NYU से किया है कि जुलियार्ड से किया है. They won't ask you that question. They will ask you to show your dance, and they will ask you to move. They will give you a choreography so that they will see if you are able to move the way they want you to move. After that, they will look at your whole degree ki haan isne kya kiya, but that doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter at all. If you really want to invest yourself in dance, then you can invest yourself. Doesn't mean I'm telling people not to get educated. Please get educated.
Oh, absolutely.
At your own capacity. Go get a degree if you want to. Go get a degree. If you don't want to get a degree, there is a lot of books available on Amazon about dance and research. Go and do it. But don't just think that going to a dance school and getting a 3 months program and 6 months program will make you into a complete dancer. I'm sorry. That is, you know, so that education system needs to change. And even I'm talking about primary education. If that primary education should be there, then the primary education should be for 10 years. हमारा primary education कितने साल का है? 5 साल का है. Then you go into high school. Then you go into college. College you do 2 years, and then after college you go to BCom, Arts, BA, MA, whatever that is, for 3 years more. So that has to be the structure of understanding dance. Also, if dance education just needs to come into picture, not 6 months, 1 year programs.
Fair enough. That's a very powerful statement you've made there, and I think something that everybody needs to really listen to and understand. Why is it being made? It's not something which is he's not saying that a 6 month program, the effort in a 6 month program is not enough, or it's just not good enough. What he's trying to say is that if you want to become a good or a great dancer, you need to have those 5, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years of experience in your bag for you to understand what movement actually is all about, where did it come from, why did it happen, so that when you dissect it for your own self as an artist, eventually you can know the nitty-gritties and you can dissect it in the most profound way possible, thereby creating an art piece which is going to make everybody feel awed by it. It's not just going to look shallow at the very top and, you know, just something that you played with, you know, maybe first position from ballet and then a contemporary move here and then stuff like that. It's not going to look like you patched up different movements together. It's going to be meaningful and it's going to have purpose. So
and if you want to become an Instagram and a YouTube dancer, you don't need all these things. You can definitely get a 6 months degree and you can easily become dancer, or you don't even have to have, you just need to have the natural talent of dance that you have when you're doing a Ganpati Visarjan, or, you know, a marriage, shadi ka dance. It's easy. It's in our blood, you know, dancing and having fun, festivities in our blood, which is a great thing. But I am talking dance in terms of education, research and development, and taking it to a different level altogether here. So don't get me wrong, otherwise, because, you know, otherwise, if you want to make it into a hobby, it's absolutely fine. You don't need to go into that depth. You can be a dancer today. It doesn't matter. You are a dancer.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very interesting take. And I think if the word education then plays a very big role, because it changes the way that you're looking at movement. It changes the way that you're approaching movement and interacting with it. And that's a very powerful statement. And I think something that people should definitely keep in their minds. Vishal, this kind of brings us to the end of part 1 of our interview series. I have really enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I think I've learned a lot more myself. A couple of things that I have rephrased in my head in terms of articulating the way that they have been by you. So thank you so much for all of that. For those of you who don't know, there's going to be 2 parts of this, of course, and we're going to see you on the other side with part 2 next week.
Thank you so much, Niharika, for this beautiful session that you're doing. This is a beautiful initiative. I think it's a fantastic opportunity for people to just come out there, speak, agree, disagree, understand different point of views, listening to people. It's an amazing initiative. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you calling me here and giving me an opportunity to just speak and just be myself. So thank you so much, Niharika.
Thank you so much, Vishal.
Thank you all for tuning into Movement and Me, an initiative that is designed for budding artists across the world. To continue receiving notifications on our latest episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel Natya Mandalam or look us up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for more information. I'm your host Niharika, and I'll see you all next week.